some new faces that we don't get to see often. That means people are engaged, and I'm loving that. So I am Assemblywoman Danielle Moreno. I represent the best district in the state, Assembly District 1. And I'd like to thank you for being here and welcome you. As you know, Nevada is a battleground state. We are movers and shakers here in this state. The first female majority ever in the country. And when you look at our state, we are a true representation of who America is, with the diversity of this state. But this candidate that we're going to hear from tonight, we haven't been able to see a lot. You know, and I have not endorsed anyone, but I am extremely impressed that even with the small resources that she's had, she has managed that so well that it's brought her to this point. Tonight, we'll get an opportunity to see her, talk with her up close and personal, hear what her plans are, not just for America, but for the state of Nevada. And I'm excited to hear that. We've seen a lot of people on TV, we've had people come in and out, and I love that, it's great for our economy. But it's time, we're getting down to the wire. We have that huge group of people running for president. It's getting smaller. And in a few days, we're gonna have to go to the polls and decide with our neighbors at our caucus who's going to represent us. So I am so happy to have this opportunity tonight to get to know Amy a little bit better, get to know you all a little bit better. So thank you, and thank you for being in this great establishment. Please come back and watch your movie. The staff is wonderful here. But I am going to turn it over now to our county chair, Donna West.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Good evening, Clark County Democrats. Show the nation what Nevada is all about and why we're battle-born and battle-tested. One of the privileges that I have as the county party chair over this past year is to meet all of the wonderful candidates running for the Democratic nomination, and to have the time to get to know them a little bit, talk about what's important to Nevada. And I have to tell you, we have the most intelligent, thoughtful, dedicated, qualified people on our slate. Any one of them is better than the dangerous person occupying the Oval Office. And I want you to fall in love with the candidate, and I want you to caucus with your heart. But then, when the country decides who our nominee is, I need you to come together and unite as a party. Because when we come together as Democrats and we vote together as a party, we win. And that's Nevada. That's what Nevada does. That's why Nevada is so blue. And so tonight it's my pleasure to introduce to you a champion for workers and families. Amy is the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate in Minnesota's history. That says something to me. And she works really hard to get things done. She's known for taking on special interests and working on behalf of working people and families, protecting consumers. You know, she's taken on Big Pharma, and she's fought to lower drug prices. She's led landmark legislation to combat the opioid epidemic. And it's something so many of our American families are struggling with, and she's on the leading edge. And instead of calling people names while she's doing the hard work, she is out there focused on getting it done. And that's what America needs. And she cares about the same things we care about in Nevada. She's fighting for education, health care, mental health, and as I said, against addiction. She understands the challenges, but she also understands the opportunities that we have. And she's ready to make a real difference for family. And so now she's running to fight for every American, not just Minnesotans. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to the senior senator from Minnesota and the candidate for President of the United States.
Somewhere, let's just say I've been in a lot of cold weather. I've been, as you know, I announced in a snowstorm with 4 inches of snow on my head, and then I continued on into many blizzards, and now I'm here with all of you, and I'm really very excited to be back in Nevada, excited about our great team that we put together here, excited that I got to share the stage here with Donna. Thank you for your leadership. We're excited about the dinner. Where are you? Right over here. And of course, State Assemblywoman, thank you. Danielle Marino, where are you? Right there. Thank you. And then also I wanted to mention that Senator Spearman is here. Where are you? Talking to me about housing and is clearly doing a great job representing her district. And I wanted to finally mention Matt Kimball is here, the 3rd Vice Chair of the Clark County Democrats. Thank you for that. I just left Washington. I went and did a forum on, yes, I was there all day today because we had a vote on a really important resolution to make clear that there must be a check on this president. Any thought he would have to go to war with Iran. And actually it was my friend Tim Kaine's resolution, something that he's been working on for a long, long time. And a lot going on here. And we were really, really happy that we picked up, I think, 7 or 8 Republican votes, which we kind of cracked there. And now we'll eventually head to his desk. We don't think he's going to sign it, then it comes back, and we'll try to override the veto if he vetoes it. And I think that, plus what just happened this week when we found out that 4 courageous Justice Department employees who'd been working on the Stone case actually resigned from the case. One left the department because of the actions of the president. Just really cements for all of us right now at this moment in time how very important this election is. Because we literally have a president who thinks he's above the law. And I can tell you right now that the rule of law is not going to be able to take 4 more years of a president who thinks he's above it. Our democracy is not going to be able to take 4 more years of a president who thinks that he can bulldoze right through it. And as I just left, these vibrant, incredible members of the Hispanic community here in Las Vegas, our American dream is not going to be able to tolerate 4 more years of a president who thinks he can choose who lives it. And I think a lot of people have counted me out in this race a few times. For instance, when I started giving my speech in the snow, there were people that predicted that I wouldn't even get through the speech, all right? On TV, how's she going to do that? It's a blizzard. They're going to have to cancel it. Okay, then we went into the summer, and they kept thinking that we would leave. Oh, no, and then debate after debate after debate. And then finally, I somehow got to that debate stage in New Hampshire. And to then, I think, surprised a lot of the pundits. And I did it without the biggest bank account. I did it without being the tallest person in the room. I know that the president went after Bloomberg this morning in a tweet and accused him of being 5'4", when I guess Bloomberg is taller than that. I'm 5'4". And I am proud of it. That's the way it is. And what's really amazing, since that debate, and the moment that we had in New Hampshire, since that debate, I think in the 24 hours after that, we raised, or 36 hours, we raised $3 million from regular people online. We just gave and I think for me, it was a moment to be able to talk about policies, yes. And I have a lot of those. I have a 100-day plan. Maybe you've seen our ad. 137 things that a president can do without Congress that are legal. Unlike this president. I also think that people were able to see my heart and where I was coming from when I looked at this race and what we need to do and what is in front of us. Because I finally decided, I used that example on the debate stage of the story of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and how when he died, he was so beloved, having gotten us through one of the worst times in our country's history. They put his body on a train and it went from Georgia to Washington, D.C. And people spontaneously stood on the train tracks to show their respect. And this one guy had his hat in his hands and he was sobbing. And this reporter looked at him and said, "Sir, did you know President Roosevelt?" And the guy says, "No, I didn't know President Roosevelt, but he knew me. He knew me." That is the empathy that is missing in the White House right now. The ability to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I can tell you this, if you are struggling to figure out how to make your paycheck stretch, to pay for your rent or pay for your mortgage, I know you, and I will fight for you. And if you are having to decide between paying for your child care for your kids, or maybe your grandkids, or pay for your long-term care for yourself or for your aging parents, I know you, and I will fight for you. And if you are having a hard time deciding, do you fill your prescription because of those spiraling prescription costs, or your refrigerator, I know you, and I will fight for you. I promise you this. I will restore that sacred trust that has been there for so long, even with presidents that we don't agree with. That sacred trust between the people of this country and the President of the United States. So let's talk about how we get there, because we have a president who, as I said, has not been following the law. And we know that there are people out there that are watching the debates, people that voted in New Hampshire, people that are willing to go to the polls all over the country, who actually maybe don't agree with everything that's said on the debate stage. I don't agree with everything that's said on the debate stage. But what they do believe is this. They believe that this election coming up is a decency check on this president. They believe that it is a patriotism check on this president. They see a president who on the world stage at the G20 convention, that international conference, when all the world leaders were there, and when a reporter asked our own president, what about Russian interference in the election? He literally looks at a ruthless dictator, Vladimir Putin, and he makes a joke about it. He makes a joke about it. Think about it. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives on the battlefield standing up for our democracy and for democracies around the world. Thousands of people from this great state have lost their lives standing up for democracies. That's what World War II was about. And think about those 4 little girls at the height of the civil rights movement who lost their lives in that church in Birmingham, Alabama. Innocents. Innocents because they were trying to be part of the democracy and other people were trying to push them away from it. Every great moment in this country's history and every bad moment is about our Constitution. It is about our democracy. And this president makes a joke about it. That's what people on the world stage thought. So when I think about the people that are out there, including in this state, who maybe are independent, maybe they stayed home in 2016, maybe some of them voted for Donald Trump. When I think of them, I think of this guy in a long line in New Hampshire, in northern New Hampshire actually, and he had, there was a long line of people and they all had these little happy stickers on that said, I'm a climate change voter, I'm a reproductive rights voter, I'm a Supreme Court voter. And he comes up in a brown jacket. I said, sir, you don't have a sticker on. And he says, oh, yeah, well, that's because I was a Trump voter. And we don't have stickers here. And he said, these are my neighbors. They don't know, so don't say anything about it. And he goes, but I am not doing it again. Minnesota, who took me on a tour of his ranch, and we were on this ATV and we were dodging these big cows, and I thought this is not a good way to die. And he then, at the end, we went in his house and he says, I voted for Trump. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, we did that actually, we did it. And I go, what do you mean we? And he said, well, I mean I, but I always say we. And then he says, we did it because we were mad about health care and the cost of health care. And he said, and then we saw him standing in front of the wall. And I say, oh, the wall's not built. And he said, no, I mean the CIA wall. And this guy remembers that when our president stood the next day after the inauguration and gave this real partisan political speech about the size of his crowd in front of this wall that is cherished by people in the CIA and in our intelligence services, because it's a wall covered with stars of anonymous people, agents who died in the line of duty. And all it is a star for each person. And he chose that space to give a political speech. And this guy remembered that. And then he says, then it was the Boy Scout rally. And I said, oh, yes, he remembered the Jamboree where Trump gave this very, very political speech. And I told him actually he had been a Boy Scout. And I said, oh, my husband came from a family scout. So my husband, some of you have met him, he's one of 6 boys. And his parents had 4 boys. They wanted to have a girl. His mom got pregnant and had identical twin boys. And they lived in a trailer court for many, many years with triple bunk beds. And they were very involved in Boy Scouts. And 5 of 6 of the boys became Eagle Scouts. Yeah. Yes. And I never like to say which one didn't make it because I don't want to embarrass my husband. So this guy, he's not here right now. I think he's coming tomorrow. So this guy, he talked about scouting, and he said that moment when Trump gave a political speech to all those young people was the last straw for him. He just said, he went like this, and he says, it wasn't patriotic for me, what I did. It wasn't patriotic. So that's what I'm talking about, and I want us to remember that as we go through this election, because I went on this Blue Wall tour and met with dock workers in Michigan, these states that we lost last time, unlike Nevada, where you guys come through with your big political machine and shows the world what can be done, and then actually not just elect my good friend Catherine Cortez Masto, you add to it Jackie Rosen. I was hanging out with both of them today on the Senate floor getting tips for my trip here. Like I didn't have to wear a sweater, you know, those kinds of things. And then to add to that, you have the majority women legislature. And you have the governor. Then you get all this stuff done on voting rights and unbelievable things and health care and gun safety. It is literally the success story of the nation right here in Nevada. But back to my story of the Midwest. So that didn't go as well in 2016. And so when I went back there the last year and met with those dock workers in Michigan and the carpenters in Pennsylvania and the dairy farmers in Wisconsin, I figured out a few things. First of all, I came up with a plan, and that is that we are going to build a beautiful blue wall or Democratic votes around those states, and we're going to make Donald Trump pay for it. The second thing I thought a lot about was just how they thought about him, because when things go wrong for them, they've got to work an extra job, or their spouse has to get extra hours, or they have to get out a loan, or if they can't afford their insulin, they've got to ration the insulin. These are all stories you hear out there more than you would think, and you hear them as well in this state. And I finally figured out, when they look at that guy in the White House, they think, huh, because he made all these promises to them that he was going to bring down prescription drug costs. He said it on the news. Said that he was going to bring down prescription drug costs so much it would make your head spin. Well, it has, but the other way. He promised all this infrastructure, right? And he was going to do all this, and yet, and all the broadband. And you know, right now it is easier to get, literally, to get cell phone service. And I know this because I've driven up in northern Nevada. It is easier to get cell phone service and high-speed internet in certain part, in all of Iceland, where they have all those volcanoes, than it is in northern Nevada, okay? So that is wrong, that's wrong. So there's all these things that he's promised people. The farm economy, we've seen a 25% increase in bankruptcies and the like. So they know that, and so there is not shared prosperity for a lot of people. And then they think of him. And so in the course of his life, he got $413 million from his dad, and literally that's how much money he had. So he had a pretty good start to life. And this is one of the reasons I can't wait to debate him. Because I'm going to be able to look at him and say, you know what, first of all, the Midwest is not flyover country to me. I live there. Those are not like poker chips, since we're in Vegas, right? Those people are not poker chips in one of your bankrupt casinos to me. They are my friends and my neighbors. And how he gets his start, compare this to me. So my grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the mines in northern Minnesota his whole life. He had 9 brothers and sisters. His parents were sick, they died young. He raised them. The youngest was taken to an orphanage at age 8, Hannah, and he vowed to go get her in Duluth, and 2 years later, he borrowed a car, got her, and brought her back. He and my grandma helped raise those kids. They had 2 boys of their own, including my dad, and they saved money in a coffee can in their basement to send my dad to a 2-year community college. And if it wasn't for unions back then, the mines were so dangerous. The sirens would go off, the families would run to the mines, they wouldn't know whose dad or whose husband had been killed. And my dad still remembers those caskets lined up in the Catholic Church. But those unions, when they came in, they made those mines safer. And as a result, my dad saved money in that coffee can in the basement. I can tell you, you cannot fit $413 million in a coffee can in the basement. My mom, she grew up in Milwaukee, which is going to be the site of our next national convention. She then moved to Minnesota, because they had a strong teachers union. And she moved to Minnesota, and she taught 2nd grade until she was 70 years old. So I stand before you today as a granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as a daughter of a teacher and a newspaperman, as the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for president of the United States. Live in a country of shared dreams, and certainly this state knows about that. We live in a country of shared dreams where no matter where you come from, or who you know, or the color of your skin, or where you worship, or who you love, that you can make it in the United States of America. And so I figure when you are given an opportunity from someone, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a neighbor or someone you work with or a teacher, you do not go into the world with a sense of entitlement. You go into the world with a sense of obligation. Obligation to bring people with you instead of shutting them out. Obligation to share what you have instead of hoarding it for yourself. And so that is what I've learned from getting around and talking to some of the people, some of whom stayed home, some of whom voted for Donald Trump. And it is really very important to remember that. The other thing is that we must have an optimistic economic agenda for the people of this country. So I start here with one thing that is really important, and that is healthcare. I know there's a lot of debate about healthcare. There's been in this town the last few days about healthcare, and this is how I look at it. I look at it practically. The Affordable Care Act, Barack Obama's bill, the Affordable Care Act is now nearly 10 points more popular than the President of the United States. We really do not want to blow it up, all right? That we might be much better off to build on it and to make it better. I would first do that with a non-profit public option, which creates competition with the insurance companies, but does not kick people off their current insurance. I would take on pharmaceutical prices in a big, big way. There are 2 pharma lobbyists for every member of Congress. They think they own Washington, but they don't own me. I have been taking them on. I've been taking them on from the very beginning. Part of this is in Minnesota, we can see Canada from our porch. So I see those less expensive prices. That's why I've been leading bipartisan bills, first with my friend Senator McCain, now with Senator Grassley, to bring in less expensive drugs that are safe from other countries. Unleashing the power of 45 million American seniors to be able to negotiate better prices under Medicare. That is my bill that I lead. And as president, I would be able to get that done. Putting a cap on prices. There's so many things we can do. Then there's other things that no one has been dealing with. First, long-term care. It's like the elephant in the room. So I'm going to tell you my dad's story because it involves a little part of my other plan too, which is dealing with addiction, opioid addiction, taking that money we're going to get in, making sure it's well spent to get people treatment, and make sure it also helps with mental health. So it's 1 in 5 Americans deal with mental health sometime in their life. And we need to erase the stigma that comes with that, and part of that will come from having the leader of our country being willing to talk about it. So my dad struggled with alcoholism my whole life growing up. By the time we got married, my husband and I, he had 3 DWIs. And on the 3rd one, the judge said, that's it, treatment or jail. He chose treatment. And in his words, he was pursued by grace. It changed his life. And he is now 91. He is sober. He is in assisted living. His AA group still visits him. And as he said about a year and a half ago to me, it's hard to get a drink around here anyway. But here's the part where the long-term care kicks in. So somehow, years back, he got long-term care insurance. And that's allowed him to be in that place. I know exactly when it's going to end. He's there with 15 other people. He's happy. But it ends in a year and a half. And then you go into his savings, which aren't as big as they should be because he got married 3 times. But never in Vegas. But that is a whole nother story. So, and it's too late to go into that. So that's not very much. And then he goes on Medicaid, like so many Americans. And the place he is now doesn't take Medicaid. So we're going to have to move them, and Catholic Elder Care said that they would take him in. But our story is actually so much happier than so many other families that have to deal with this, that didn't have the long-term care insurance, or have someone with people with disabilities, a kid with disabilities. There's so many stories like that. And so that's why I have this whole plan on long-term care, which is of course about keeping Social Security strong and Medicaid strong. But it is also about being innovative, about creating a reduction in premiums. And there's a way to pay for this, it's on my website, so that people can have an easier time buying long-term care insurance. And then also the second piece of this, whether they have that insurance or not, making it easier for them to stay in their homes. Because a lot of people, and then building more senior housing. I know what an issue affordable housing is for everyone. The state senator made sure I heard that, In Vegas, 1 in 5 people struggle with housing costs, and I have a whole housing plan to first of all take care of the backlog of Section 8 cases, and there's a lot of that needs to be dealt with immediately. Creating incentives to build more affordable housing, including for our seniors, and then also making it easier for people to pay for that housing. Because in my job, my past job in local government, I've seen time and time again, if you give people a roof over their heads, then they can send their kids to school, and they can send their kids to the same school, and they can have stability in their life. And it's easier to get access, transportation, and easier to get a job. Everything comes with having that solid foundation of a house. I know that in my own life, my parents, they got their first house on a GI loan. My dad was able to get that house on a dirt road. It was then pretty rural, now suburbs of the Twin Cities. And that was their house, and I still remember the aqua-colored cabinets and the countertop and the yellow oven that my mom had. There was no dishwasher, but she had that yellow oven to the end of her life, all right? That was their house, and everyone should have that same right. So housing is a big piece of this, and having senior housing, which actually then might open up housing stock, right? For families and others to use some of the other housing. So that's one thing that we can do. Other thing which really bleeds into this is matching our education system with our economy. Because we are going to have, in this country, in this great place of such a great service industry, fact you can take away about Amy Klobuchar to share with your friends that you don't know, that don't know me, that you need to tell them about me. Okay, so I have, since I got to the Senate, headed up all the tourism legislation in the Senate. At the advice of one of my mentors, one Harry Reid. The Brand USA bill, which allows our country to advertise overseas, which is a big, big deal, so that we bring in more foreign visitors, which, as you know, spend an average of $5,000, employ a lot of people right here in this great city. And I also have headed up the tourism caucus, and it's really fun for me because growing up, my dad would only take us on trips that involved campers and tents. So I always would look at these hotels, I want to stay in that hotel. So anyway, so somehow I've translated that into my involvement in tourism. And so I know the needs in the tourism industry, the strong importance of our unions to make sure that people get a fair wage and get good benefits. And I also look at that employment out there, and this is what I see as we look at our education system. We're going to have 1 million openings, over 1 million for home health care workers. And because of the aging of our population, in the next 10 years, we do not know how we're going to fill these jobs. So we have to make sure that they have good wages. We have to make sure childcare for those jobs so that people want to take those jobs. We are going to have over 100,000 openings for nursing assistants. Those are 1- and 2-year degree jobs. We are going to have over 70,000 openings for electricians. We are not going to have a shortage of sports marketing degrees, as good as those are. And I know someone has one out there. Yay, yeah, okay. We are not going to have a shortage of sports marketing degrees, guys. We are going to have a shortage of plumbers. That is a fact. Anyone trying to call a plumber or is a plumber, know that this is true. There we go, right there. So that's what we're going to have. So we have to look at how do we match our education system with that economy. So this is what I think we need to do. 1, investment in K through 12, big time, right? So that people are on an even playing field. And by the way, you know how we do this? We just take the estate tax. During Obama's time, there was this exemption for $3.5 million. Trump put it up to $11 million. You change that back to where it was, you get over $100 billion that you can put in K through 12 right there. And also infrastructure. I visited one of the Las Vegas schools. I saw how hard it was, and the cool, I was going to say heat, sorry, Minnesota, the cooling system, and how difficult that is. And so that is a piece of it too. Preschool, investment in preschool. Then you go to the next step. 1- and 2-year degrees. I think those should be free. That was something President Obama wanted to do from the beginning. Those are the fastest growing jobs in our economy, and that's what makes the most sense. And that includes things like apprenticeships and the great union apprenticeships. I've been at the Carpenters facility out here, and those kinds of programs. Then you go to 4-year degrees. We're going to have a lot of need for 4-year degrees. And so, to me, the best way you do that, I know there's that bumper sticker thing, free college for all. I know it's good on a bumper sticker, but I think my plan works better for people. And so what that is, what my plan is double the Pell Grants. That's not loans, those are grants, pure money, from $6,000 to $12,000 a year, and then double the income level, from $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year. So the people that need it, are going to get that money. And instead of sending wealthy kids, using it to send wealthy kids to go to college, we actually are using that money for the people that need it, for the home health care workers and the things that I talked about. I think that's the best way to do that. Okay, immigration reform. That is a big part of our economic picture. And as I said earlier today, 70 of our Fortune 500 companies are headed up by people from other countries. 25% of our US Nobel laureates were born in other countries. 37% of the small businesses in this great city are headed up by Hispanics. Immigrants do not diminish America, they are America. I will get this done in the first year because I know where all the bodies are buried. Okay? Like, I have worked on this. When Bush was president, he actually wanted to get it done. And Ted Kennedy asked me to be in the small group that worked on that and worked with Harry, and we were so close. And we were defeated by right-wing talk radio, basically. Then we turned to Obama's time, and again, we actually passed the bill. Thanks to Harry Reid, we passed the bill in the US Senate. We got that done with Democrat, Republican support, with the AFL-CIO supporting it strongly, and the Chamber of Commerce, with migrant groups supporting it, and the Farm Bureau and the Farmers Union. But that thing ended up in John Boehner's freezer over in the House of Representatives and died next to the frozen peas. It was an unbelievable thing. And so we have a model, we can make it better with a path to citizenship, but we can pass this bill because it's becoming more and more of an economic imperative every single day. Okay, next. The last challenge I'll mention, because it's getting really late, and I don't remember what time frame I'm on. You know, I was in New Hampshire, then I went to Washington, and for me it's like 1 in the morning. Yay! Okay, all right, so the next challenge, and I haven't really made mistakes very much today. Okay, well, a few earlier on tonight. The last thing I want to mention is climate change. So climate change. So that is something that you see with these hot temperatures in Nevada. You see it with those wildfires in California. You see it with those firefighters that perished in Arizona. And whenever I think about it, I think about that video, actually out of Northern California, of that dad driving out with his daughter out of Paradise, their neighborhood burning behind them. He's driving her through lapping flames over their car, and she is so scared, and he sings to her to calm her down. It's like 1 minute long, and once you see that, you know climate change is not happening 100 years from now, it is happening right now. And so when we talk about the solution to this, one, I think it's helpful to have someone from the Midwest heading up the ticket, because that is actually where we have not had the votes. And there's all kinds of issues out there with flooding and weird weather events and rising homeowners insurance because of the flooding that are really important to talk about. But in terms of solution, this is what I would do. On day one, get us back into the International Climate Change Agreement. Us out of that agreement, there were only 2 countries not in it, Syria and Nicaragua. They are now in it. So we are the only ones. Day 2, bring back the clean power rules, something you can do without Congress that have been compromised over a series of years. Power companies know they're coming. On day 3, the gas mileage standards, you know, California's been fighting to put those in place. Originally, most of the car companies were on board, and then Donald Trump came and pushed it back. Those you can do without Congress. And on day 4, 5, and 6, I would introduce sweeping legislation on energy efficiency, renewable energy, which you have in spades here in Nevada, and put a price on carbon. And on day seven, I would rest. No, I would rest. We have to make sure that legislation is airtight so that the money that comes in by putting a price on carbon, either by a national renewable electricity standard or cap and trade or a straight tax on carbon, that money has to come. It's going to be trillions of dollars. And it has to go right back to people in the form of dividends, or it's bad policy. It won't work if we don't do that, because people can't handle the extra cost. And it also has to, we have to make sure that they're able to afford their heating and their air conditioning and whatever else they need, because we're not going to be able to pass it if we don't do that. So that should be very clear. And then we also have to make sure that there's incentives in there for jobs to go, good union jobs to go, manufacturing jobs, doesn't always even have to be green energy jobs, to the areas that are going to see changes in jobs. Some people are going to see more jobs in certain areas of the country, some are going to see less. And we have to make sure that those areas that are going to have that transition have incentives for more jobs to come into those areas. So for me, it's not just from my head, it's from my heart. That's because I mentioned my grandpa, and you've seen this in Nevada. When those mines closed down, there were no jobs. And they literally had a billboard, and now they're back open again because we went after steel dumping, by the way. But they had a billboard outside of Duluth that said, "Last one to leave, turn off the lights." And I'll never forget that. That was in the 70s. I'll never forget seeing that. So that's in my heart. And I know we can do this, because we can't just leave it as it is. You all know that. You see those warming temperatures. But I actually see this as this incredible opportunity, if we do this right, to lead again in the world on technology and sell the technology and create good paying jobs. Last thing I want to say that unites every one of us in this room, and really all of us across the country, is that we have to win. We cannot screw this up. We have to win. And so I make my case here. I have won every race, every place, every time. I have won in the reddest of districts every single time, 3 times, Michelle Bachmann's district. I'm willing to go not just where it's comfortable, but where it is uncomfortable. I have won in the rural districts, the suburban districts, big time. I have won all the way down to 4th grade. Where my slogan, well, all these guys boast on the debate stage, so that's my thing. Where my slogan, which I since abandoned, was all the way with Amy Kay. I think I could bring back and I have done this just as we did in that come from behind, surprise, surprise numbers that we got in New Hampshire, where people had just counted us out. I did it by bringing people with me instead of shutting them out. And I have done it, governed in that same way as well. And I really think that's what we need right now in a candidate. I don't think we can out-divide the divider-in-chief. I think, as was noted in the endorsements I've recently gotten, which included the New York Times, with my friend Elizabeth, and now the Las Vegas Sun. The Vice President. I'm the duo endorsement person. But I think what they have said in these newspaper endorsements, where they've grilled me with tons of questions, is that I am someone that can truly lead and unite our party, which you know is going to be important, but also unite our country. And that is what I will do here. And the last thing I would say, as you head into these caucuses, is to just keep working and not give up. And caucus for me. I am someone that has done this not the easy way, but the hard way. Starting in that blizzard. Doing this without as much money. Building a team that's been incredibly loyal and stayed together. Scrappy, happy campaign team. I am someone that chose the color green for my campaign because it is the color, was the color of one of my political mentors, Paul Wellstone. And he would ride around the state in this green bus, and he would talk really, really, really fast in his ads because he had just a fraction of the money of his opponent, and he could only talk and had to say as much as you'd say in a minute and 30 seconds. And then he would also run back and forth really fast in parades. And the last year of his life, when he died tragically in this plane crash with his wife right before the election that he was going to win, that year he had told the state that he had MS. And he, despite being this incredibly vibrant U.S. Senator, he couldn't run in those parades anymore. He could hardly walk. And so he would stand on the back of that green bus next to Sheila, and they would wave. But here is the amazing part about the story. He had energized so many people in these green shirts to run around that bus, hundreds of people, that you didn't even notice he wasn't running himself. And that's what I'm asking you to do for me. Not literally run around a Vegas bus. You don't have to do that. I'm asking you to run for me. I'm not going to be able to be in every workplace in the next, how many days is it, Donna? 9 days, yes. I am going to try to get all over your state, and I think this is a good sign that I'm at 1 a.m. still my time, and still going after doing Rachel Maddow last night and somehow being in Washington. I'm asking you to run for me and to talk to your friends. Say, you know what, that woman from Minnesota, she can do this. She can build this coalition. She needs your help. She needs our help. So I'm asking you to do that. Call everyone you know. Get them out to the caucuses. Get them to vote. Because I'm telling you, if we do this, we will not just eke by a victory at 4 in the morning on election night, as sweet as that will be. We will win big.